So I want to demonstrate how to make fresh pasta. It's very simple. This dough is great for long cut pasta, short pasta, stuffed pasta, lasagna sheets. It can be used for a lot of different things. I'm going to walk you through the ingredients and how to put the dough together. So here we have 10 ounces of all-purpose flour, 10 ounces of semolina flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, and that's our dry ingredients. For our wet ingredients, we have a tablespoon of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of milk, 3/4 cup water, and here are 5 egg yolks and 1 whole egg. So let me show you how to put all this together. First thing I'm going to do is take my dry ingredients, my 10 ounces of flour, and I'm going to put them in a large bowl, 10 ounces of semolina, and my 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to whisk that together. I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to take my eggs, and in the bowl with the egg yolks and whole egg, I'm going to add the 3/4 cup water, 2 tablespoons of milk, and remember every ounce counts, and my 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Once I have all those combined, I'm going to whisk the liquid ingredients well together. So now we're down to a wet kit and a dry kit. From here, what we're going to do is we're going to make a little well or a hole in the middle of the dough for the dry ingredients. And in that hole that we're making, the well, we're going to put the wet ingredients, all of it. So there's my hole, and I'm going to pour all the wet ingredients inside that hole. Then I'm going to take a whisk, and I'm going to kind of slowly incorporate some of the dry ingredients into the liquid until the whisk becomes useless. So it'll look like this. I'm just pulling it off the sides and bringing it into the liquid mixture. Okay, it's getting really stiff now. So we're going to stop using the whisk, and while it's still fairly liquidy, we're going to take all that off. Then we're going to use our hands to pull over all the remaining dry ingredients on top of the liquid ingredients to make the dough. Okay, so it's going to look mealy like this. That's exactly what it should look like at first, until it's fully combined. It'll start to come together as you draw in the dry ingredients. Once you get it almost fully together, you can then move it onto your table, put everything on there, and then you can get rid of your bowl. From here, you're going to knead the dough for about 5 to 7 minutes. It'll start really loose like this, and it'll get really stiff as you work it. But we're using the blade of our hands here on the palm to push the dough out and then curl it back and then push it out again. So it looks like this. Then you turn it. You want to gather up any of the pieces that are on your board. And again, I'm curling it back, and then from here I'm kind of tucking and pushing, and the pressure happens right there. Okay? So if I do it from here, try and get you to see it, you want to create a stretch right in this area as you're rolling it forward with the palm of your hand. That's the kneading action. And what you're doing with that, the reason why we're doing that is to develop the gluten that's in here. It's what's going to allow later when we do the video on how to roll the pasta, we're going to be able to stretch the dough out really, really far. And the way we're going to get that elasticity is by developing the gluten. So this is a very important step for pasta making. So I'm going out, and then it gets longer and longer and longer as you do it over. See how long that is? Then you turn it, bring it back up, curl that top part down, and again press, and the stretch happens right there. And I can feel it's getting nice and stiff and dense already, really tight. If you follow the measurements precisely, you shouldn't have any hydration issues. It won't be either too wet or too dry. If you haven't, if it's too dry, add a little bit of water before you start kneading. If it's a little too wet, you can just songer or sprinkle a little flour on your table, and that'll help get it a little bit drier. But it should feel like this. You should be able to squeeze it, and without too much pressure, it should give in. Okay? Kind of like a heavy sponge is what it feels like. Peel it back, create that stretch. Once you do this for about 5 to 7 minutes, it'll be really tight. And it'll form a ball like that. Then you want to take a piece of plastic wrap. Very important. And cover it up. If you don't do this, it'll dry out super, super fast. Okay? So then you have your pasta dough. After it's kneaded, it does need to sit for about an hour. If you're going to use it right away, an hour at room temperature. You can also, if you're doing it maybe making in the morning, you can then put this in the refrigerator and leave it in there. And when you get home from school or work, you can pull this out just at room temp and let it sit out for about 30-40 minutes. And then we'll show you how to cut and roll it next. All right, so we have all our sheets rolled out, and now we're going to cut them. And you can have all different shapes. This attachment here is for fettuccine, which is what we're cutting right now, but there's also a spaghetti cutter attached to it. You can get all different types, reganetti, you can get pappardelle, all different sizes. They even have rollers that you can just cut the dough with on the table if you don't want to get this fancy. But let me show you how this pasta machine works. You take your dough that you've cut, you know how to roll it out, you know how to cut it to this length, you know how to store it so it doesn't dry out too much. You just gently place it right by the cutters and let the teeth of the blade grab it, and you just hold it gently here. You go almost all the way through, then you stop and switch hands, and you come underneath to catch it, let it drop, and then you put it on your pasta hook. If you don't have anything like this, you can also use, when I was in culinary school, we would do this. We used coat hangers, because we were on a budget. But you can, anything you can find, you can set up a indoor clothesline and do that in your kitchen. Lots of fun ways to hang pasta. You can just open up the drawers in your cabinets and hang them over the cabinets. That's fine too. But this is a nice, easy thing. It breaks down nicely for storage. But they have all different types of pasta hangers available. So there you go, fresh cut fettuccine. It's a fun project to do at home with family or friends. You can make the dough in the morning, go out for a hike, come back, cut it. Once it's in this position, it can stay here for a while because it's cut and it can dry on there. So that's the point where you don't have to worry about covering it after this. You do want to use it the same day. You really don't want to have this sitting here out and then using it the next day or something, because it is a raw egg pasta. All right, so I'm going to finish up cutting the rest of this, and our next step will be to show you how to cook it and put it together with a sauce and a garnish, and then we get to eat it. So I'm going to show you quickly how to form a tortellini. So it's very simple. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can take a flat sheet like this and cut a square. Like this, and for this demo purposes, I'm just going to use the pasta as the filling. So it'll be a pasta stuffed pasta. But what you want to envision here is your square, and then imagine a line going diagonally across here. You want to put your filling below this line, and this is where a lot of people kind of make mistakes. They put way too much filling in there, so you don't need a lot of filling in there. So I'm going to put that at the base of the bottom part of this triangle. And I'm going to take a little bit of water and hit all the edges up of the base triangle. And I'm going to fold the top part down across this line right here, okay? Now this is another important part. You want to start pinching around the filling first, okay? So seal off that filling initially, and then you want to work out from there to remove any possible air that's in there. If you have air in there and you put it in boiling water, that air is going to expand and it could tear your tortellini. Now, if you're like me and you like angles and lines, you can go a little further and trim up this part. This part's fine. And then you want to curl the edges over. So I'm going to put a little bit of water over here. And then I'm going to put my pinky right here. And I'm going to roll this over. Don't go too tight, otherwise you're going to have some very interesting rings on your finger. And I'm just going to get this part wet. I'm going to pull this other side over. A little stretch, not too much. And then seal it in. Okay? Then you're going to fold down the top portion. Like that. And there is your belly button, which is kind of one of the romantic histories of the tortellini. I'll let you look that one up. But that's one style of tortellini. Another style would be if you take your dough and you can take a round cutter and you want to maximize your ability to get your money out of here. So it's important to go right on the edges and then make your cut. Okay, so you go around, and again, I'll use this as a demo. I'll use this as my filling. And it's the same concept. You want to think half. You want to put the filling on the bottom half, not too much. Okay, then you're going to take some water and get this bottom portion wet. Fold the top part over. Okay, same principles as the other one. You want to pinch around your filling, get all that air out of there, and then push out. Then you're going to turn it over. Get a little bit of water on this side. Okay, put your pinky down, roll this top part over, line it up and pinch. Seal. And then you're going to, again, roll this top edges down a little bit. Okay, so there's two different styles of tortellini. One has a little pointy hat and one is a little bit more round off. So whichever one you like to do. This one is probably more profitable because you're not wasting as much. But this one looks a little bit more refined, so depends on what you're going for. Happy pasta making. All right, so now we've made the pasta dough. We've kneaded it properly, we let it rest, and then we cut it in quarters and formed our rectangles, put them through the pasta roller to make long rectangles, and then we put them through the cutter, and now we have our fettuccine, and now we're ready to finish our pasta. So here we have some boiling salty water. How salty? Salty like the sea. You should actually taste it to make sure it's there. I tasted it earlier and it's spot on. And roughly the amount of water, it varies depending on what pasta you're doing and all, but I think you'll see a lot of textbooks say it's a gallon of water for a pound of dry box pasta. And that's typically for the type you buy at home. This is a fresh pasta. It's much different. It's not going to take as long to cook, and so you have to keep an eye on it. So I'm going to put it in there now, and I'm just going to scoot all these beautiful noodles into the water, and they're going to take about 3 to 4 minutes to cook, not 7 to 8 minutes like your at-home pasta. Okay, so that's all in now, and while this is cooking, I'm going to gently stir this around because you don't want to break the noodles up, but you also don't want them to stick. And you can see already they're getting very tender already. So we have it on rolling boil the entire time, and you can get the water moving gently if you like. Just keep it moving around. And so what we have here is one of my favorite sauces. I have a few favorite pasta sauces, as you can imagine. One is the cacio e pepe, which is what this is. It's a lot of black pepper and cheese and olive oil. And I like to finish mine with a little bit of lemon zest, as well as parsley. I like a little bit of that bitter, fresh factor in there. And then, so that's one of my favorite pastas. Of course, I like just olive oil or even just buttered noodles. Grew up on that. It's absolutely delicious. So we're going to let these cook till they're tender. Again, you want to keep that water rolling boil. Very, very important. You don't want the water to just be sitting there. So when this comes out, I'm going to put it inside the bowl. In here I have a little bit of butter and a blend of Parmigiano Reggiano and Pecorino Romano cheeses. These are both hard Italian cheeses that are fragrant, so nutty, and they almost have a wine-like aroma quality to them. And a lot of fresh cracked black pepper. Don't buy the pre-ground stuff. Lock in your aromas and keep them in the hole, and then crack them as needed. And then I have a little bit of finishing salt here. This is French sea salt from Garonne, wonderful sea salt. We're just going to finish it on top, and it's very earthy and a little buttery as well. So all the noodles have come up to the surface now. The water is agitating well. It's really gelatinizing these starches in here. You can take one out if you like and try it. Check the doneness. They're done. So now I'm going to take some of the water along with this, because I want the water and the butter and the cheese to make this creamy, creamy sauce. So I want some of this water to go in there to create that sauce. You can see how fast they cook too. That's another nice thing about fresh pasta. Okay, while the pasta is out, I'm going to take my bowl and create my sauce. It should be nice and creamy from the cheese, the black pepper, and the heat from the pasta. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil in here. A little bit more cheese. My lemon zest, this is just my personal version. I like the fresh aroma in there. And then a little bit of parsley. You can certainly put more black pepper in there, which is one of the main elements. Kind of like a carbonara, where you have these black specks from the carbon that go in there. The cacio e pepe does a lot of black pepper in there too. All right, it's looking pretty creamy in there. I can take a little bit, if I need more water, I can add a little bit of hot water. It's nice to use the pasta water just to create more of a sauce if you like it creamier. And then you can take your plate, carefully with your tongs, nice and gentle, pick up the pasta, put it on the plate, nice little twist. Then if you wanted to add a little bit of more cheese on top, and a little bit of parsley on top, some black pepper, and a little bit of fleur de sel. I just like to crack it right over the top. And there you have it, fresh pasta, cacio e pepe.